friends. This week we're talking about swung eighth notes, what they are, and how to play them. In music, an eighth note is just half of the subdivision of the beat. So usually with an eighth note, when we see it on paper, if we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, we would subdivide that into two exact pieces. So it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now if we listen to jazz music in America or swing music, we'll see things notated as these eighth notes, but as we play them and as we listen to recordings, we'll see that these eighth notes are played quite differently. They're not even. The first note will be longer and the second note will be a little bit shorter. Now this is not exclusive whatsoever to American swing music, although it is probably the largest and most popular genre that does utilize swung eighth notes. I mean, this really goes back even to the 1400s in French classical music. We note inégale. We also have the lilt of say, Irish fiddle music and such, which would be notated as straight eighth notes, but the players know to interpret this in a different way. But what we're talking about today is really that swung eighth note in American jazz. Now, we should start off by saying that the breadth of the swing, or how wide it is, can vary from player to player, from time period to time period. If we look at earlier jazz in the 20s and 30s, we have kind of a more march-like swing, because that's where it's coming out of in New Orleans, is that brass band tradition. And we get to a slightly wider swing as we get to the bop period and things such as that. And that's really more what we hear now. The best way that we can really conceptualize this is as a subdivision of a triplet. So instead of thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, we want to subdivide each individual beat into 3 separate pieces. So it would be 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So we can have that feel in our head, and we always want to have this triple subdivision going on, as opposed to a duple, which would be 2 notes in one measure. Now what we're going to do for this, as I said, the first note is going to be just a little bit longer than the first note. So what it's going to be is tying the 2 first eighth notes of our eighth note triplet together. So as we're going 1 triplet, 2 triplet, we're just going to hit the first and the last eighth note of the triplet. We're going to omit the middle one and hold the first note through that. And that's what's going to give us as close as we can approximate in Western notation to this swing feel. So you can say it with me if you start with just the triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And then we can get out that middle of the triplet. So we'll stop that first syllable of the triplet. 1, let 2, let 3, let 4. But in my head, I'm thinking 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3. I always have that even subdivision going. The most important thing you can really do for that, oh, hi, Charlie, is to is to keep this triplet subdivision in your head, but especially listen to songs. As I said, this is as close as we can get it in Western notation, but is not exact to what swung is. So I just want to play one example of a straight eighth note, and then I'm going to play the same pattern with a swung eighth note so that you can hear the difference between them. So here's a straight eighth note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's our swung eighth note if we play it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It gives that nice swinging wide rhythm to it, although we would notate that exactly the same. So if you join me over on Patreon, we can talk a little bit more about how these things work together. There's a worksheet over there to help break down this even more, with some exercises to especially clap through, not even to just apply to the instrument, so that you can start getting this feel under your belt.